Hello, everybody. There's something playing in the background here in my headphones, and I can't figure out what it is. Interesting. There's another screen playing, and I can hear myself. All right. Let's see if I can find it. Hmm. Sorry for the silence. I'm going to have to close down some screens because I think I had some YouTube screens open because I'm going to show you a bunch of stuff to do with this topic tonight of Age of Aquarius. How astrology and sound affects us. This is going to get deep into some elements. I will have to now open those up again and find them because there was something playing secretly in the background. So that would drive me insane. Hearing my voice echo back to me nonstop, that would drive me absolutely crazy. But, anyways, guys, welcome to the show at the Order of Velvet Bite. And I was listening to Aquarius by Fifth Dimension just to get pumped up for this show. We got Incognito joining us today in the room. Jonacide is going to listen to us while he's driving. Drive safe, Jonacide. Eric, Joseph Merrick, welcome to the show. It's good to see you here. Am I devil horning it? I don't want anyone to say I'm a Satanist and freak out and start like trashing the chat because I'm not. So, that would be crazy. So, remember we did a show a while back, or I did a show. If you attended it and participated in the comments, but it was called The Season of the Witch and Politics. And it was kind of wondering whether it's politics or religion that kind of made a lot of changes and ran the systems and attacked, pagans. And my theory is it's always politics, and a politic just invades religion, that kind of thing. And so I gave you a big scope from goddess to polytheism to monotheism. We're going to kind of add another layer on that with this show where we talk about the age of Aquarius and the transitioning of those ages. And there's a lot of debate as to whether or not we're in Aquarius. I don't think we are. We'll go into that. I had videos lined up at perfect numbers. I had to shut them down. So you're going to have to allow me time to pull them back up. Something went all haywire, which is unfortunate. But we are going to go into this idea that we are at the very end of Pisces, in a cusp going into Aquarius. And we're going to talk about what that means because a lot of people are confused. They don't even know what that means. I'm one of those people. And one of the reasons we're going to talk about this, and Matthew Kirshner's in the room. Hi, Matthew. Welcome to the show. Good to see you here. One of the reasons I want to talk about this, everyone's like, this stuff's ridiculous. You just have to be Christian. It's not ridiculous at all. I mean, our elite rulers know all of this stuff intimately, and they understand it. In fact, they are probably from elite families for thousands of years that understand this very well. And who was it that said playing Sonic Wave Machine, playing that 528 now? Is that 528 hertz? Is that what you're talking about? We're going to get into those sound vibrations, by the way. We're going to show you how sound creates shape and affects the world. And I just got taken off guard because that sound was playing in the background. And so I had to close everything down. So let's go into my playlist because I have this all saved somewhere. So we're going to get into talking about I've got it pulled up here. We can just pull it up anytime. What I'm going to start with for people who may not be familiar with Age of Aquarius and such, and what that even means. I'm going to tell you what it is in the ABC 123 Sesame Street version. Okay, so the Age of Aquarius, it's an astrological concept for an era believed to follow the age of Pisces. We're in Pisces right now. Pisces is the fish. Pisces is very indicative of like Christianity, those kind of figures like Jesus, Muhammad, Krishna, Buddha, those kind of figures arose a couple thousand years ago, give or take some time. And it's very indicative of that age. Pisces, it's coming to an end. Each era, I believe, lasts about 2100 or 2160 years. I think they calculate every degree by like equals 72 years. But there's a crux here because not each star, each constellation in the sky. That's what Aquarius represents. Pisces is the fish, it's the constellation. Each constellation doesn't take up this exact same space. So they're not all exact same time frame. So you can feel the merger. Anyways, the Age of Aquarius marks a transition in human consciousness, spirituality, and culture. There is no scientific consensus, of course, on it, and many astrologers believe it has already begun, possibly around the 20th century. The transition is tied to a precession of the equinoxes, a real astronomical phenomena, but the exact timing is debated and considered by many to be a gradual process rather than a sudden event, and it is a gradual process. The age of Pisces is often associated with organized religion, faith, everybody worshiping and following the rules, or they get kicked out, top to bottom of the pyramid. And it's symbolized by the fish, of course. Aquarius is predicted to bring about a new era focused on technology, innovation, communication, and spirituality outside of traditional religious structures. Right now, I still think we're in those traditional structures. That's why we have technocrats at the top, like gods. Like I say, I think we have at least another 100 years, but we can feel Aquarius's influence coming in. In fact, you might have been able to see. We'll get into it because some people say it started in the 1400s, and I just think that's incorrect. Now, Aquarius is the symbolism of the water bearer, which you would think is a water sign, but it's an air sign. And the symbol of Aquarius, it's the man, he's got the jug and he's pouring water down. And it kind of symbolizes he's pouring water from the stars down to the earth. He's providing knowledge and wisdom. He's a bearer of wisdom. And now a lot of people see the internet as that. I think that's a hoax. Personally, I think it would have to come a little more organic than that, in my opinion. So, like I said, some people are saying 1447 AD to as late as 3597 AD. That's way too late. And some people are saying as early as 2011. And I think what's happening is because it's moving and the earth is wobbling and it's moving by like 1 degree every 72 years. You get a little spot of it here and there. You get Aquarius showing up because the energy is shifting more towards that constellation and away from Pisces. But Pisces still has a hold. And I think that's why we're seeing all this hectic. Good morning, MLE author, Matthew Lee from Calgary. Dorothy, welcome. What's crazy, Eric says, is I'm Pisces. Sounds like a major transition. There's all major transitions, and I'm going to show you guys something because we talked about the seasons in the seasons of a witch, where we talked about the changes in different eras of religion. I think we're going to see that these changes in these eons or eras kind of corresponds with these changes in religion. I'm going to pop this up right for you guys. You'll remember this from that show, Stages of a Religious Development. We had the mother goddess, polytheism, and monotheism. Under the mother goddess, we were in Taurus, probably closer to Taurus. And what's the mother goddess? Representative of the bird, and the male is the bull, the Taurus. Then we have polytheism. That was in the age of Aries. So it's not going forward like Aries, Taurus in that way. It's going in reverse when it comes to these major eras that last 2160. So polytheism was Aries. You had a lot of warring and a lot of these little empires rising, and they were overtaking other little cultures, and they were absorbing them into a pantheon of gods. That corresponds with Aries, the era of Aries, age of Aries. Monotheism is Pisces, the age of the fish, Jesus, as I showed right here. Or you could say Muhammad, or you could say Buddha, but these things all rose at the same time. They're corresponding. The dates might not be exactly the same, but there's an overlapping influence there. And I just wanted to remind you guys that this is how that connects to that show, is that there was that overlapping influence in the era. And now we don't really know. I mean, I'm sure people in the goddess era didn't say, hey, I'm from the goddess era and we went to polytheism. It's not like they had it labeled or categorized. It just happened. And there really isn't a way to avoid it. And my opinion is, for people who will say it happened in 1477 because the Enlightenment, which that's way too early, in my opinion. But for people who are saying it's happened in the 17th century, I think what you're seeing is, because it's a transition and you're in cusps, is you might see a little dot of it. But we were still heavily ruled by monotheism and monarchies at the top down. So I don't think you could say, yeah, Pisces is done. Pisces was, coming to its fruition for sure. And now we're seeing it in this last 100 years, especially when people like Aleister Crowley started to call out a new aeon. You could see that there. I think they were really tapping in that it was coming. And look, in the big picture of things, a couple 100 years, it's like, yeah, that's a little transition for us. That's like, a few generations. That's a lot of time. But I still think probably 50 to 100 years, Aquarius will be in full swing. Most of us won't be here, but you can feel it, and that's the chaos in the world today that you see. Some people say it's the tech bros that are in. Some people, I think the tech bros are an illusion. I think that's still Pisces, because they're still fighting for power and top, and they're still doing smear campaigns. It's not real knowledge. They're giving you a controlled system still, like a very authoritarian system. So I think they're just, and you see these rises in Christianity. You're seeing it right now. Not in the United States necessarily, but of all places, China is having a rise of Christianity. And I think that's just these last throes of the Pisces era. It's just throwing out what it can before it vibrates naturally into Aquarius. Now, I would have loved to have played The Age of Aquarius by Fifth Dimension, but I get a total copyright. That would have been my dream to do on the show, just to get us in the monarchies. They've been destroying monarchies since the 1600s in Europe. So it's been a few hundred years. But it doesn't matter. The monarchy is destroyed, but it's still replaced by something that is replica of a monarchy. That's top down. That is authoritarian. The structure of power still stands. It's not like everyone just were, it transitioned. It didn't transition. Maybe this is the rough stage of transitioning, but we still had that hierarchy going on, even if they say they're communists. Like even now with the woke, they wanted a hierarchy where all the incompetent people are on top and get privilege. That still existed. And in Aquarius, and most of that stuff with those, the reason they got rid of kings and queens is the bankers wanted them gone. And so the king and queen of England were replaced with Charles II, and then they were replaced by the Dutch relatives, and they probably just made a deal with the banks to behave and be on their side, and eventually just did in all the other royal families. I'm sure that was the deal, and then they'll just pretend it's World War I, World War II, and they're the good guys and the other guys are the bad guys. And I really think that's still going on, because the elites still clear each other out. I think there's something going on still, and France might be the target again. Remember, they've already got rid of the royal family, but I think we can clearly see that people in countries still act like royal families, and people still worship them as icons and royal families, and that is not what Aquarius is supposed to be about at all. So, hold on here. I want to go and show you a video. We're going to go, I just got to pull it up. We're going to go into, if I find it, here we go. No, I got to switch over. We're going to switch over to the internet scene, and we are going to show you a description of it by Graham Hancock. If you guys are a fan of Graham Hancock, he does a lot of alternative research into ancient places, Egypt, different ancient monuments, sort of kind of undoing the grift of all the, remember, Egyptologists and stuff. That's like a pseudoscience of its own. But he talks about the age of Aquarius. And I'm going to research more. I'm sure I'm going to be bringing up this age of Aquarius stuff a lot because I think it's relevant in what's happening today in the big universal astrological picture. And most people don't think astrology affects us. And the rich know. They know different. So let's check this out and bring it up and see what Graham Hancock says about the age of Aquarius.
And then the sun transits out of, on the equinox, transits out of one constellation and into another. So we indeed do live in the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Because of the precessional motion of the Earth, because of this change, this wobble on the Earth's axis, the constellation that houses the sun on the equinox is shifting out of Pisces and into Aquarius. That shift will be complete within the next 100 or 150 years. What we have here is a process that operates at the rate of 1 degree every 72 years. We allocate 30 degrees to each of the 12 constellations of the zodiac. Multiply 72 by 30 and you get 2,160. That's a zodiacal age. Take the whole cycle of the zodiac, the whole 12 constellations, each with 2,160 years housing the sun on the spring equinox, and you get what the ancients called the Great Year, when everything cycles back to the beginning and the whole process starts again.
Right, so except it cycles back again, but with a different vibration. Graham Matthew says he's got all his book. He's awesome. He's got some fascinating stuff. I believe he has some stuff on Netflix, but I'm not paying for Netflix. I'm not paying for these guys' stuff. Anyways, that's Graham Hancock's basically giving you ABC 1, 2, 3. There's a lot of different perceptions on it and what it has to bring. But remember, billionaires know this. When you have these elites telling us astrology's hogwash, your dreams, that's just hogwash. That's just so silly. It's ridiculous. Your dreams are ridiculous. That's so silly. Don't go with your intuition. These same elite people hire astrologers professionally on every move they make. When they make major moves, when they do these psyops, when they release brands, they look at the sky and they know where these stars are sitting. They know where these constellations are moving. They know the symbolism in logos. They know that vibration makes shapes, sound makes shapes, it forms things, it means things. We're going to get into the sounds the planets make and how that might affect us. They know all of this stuff and they don't want us to know it. Age of Aquarius is about bringing in real knowledge and understanding. And you're seeing a lot of people waking up and understanding what's going on. There's still lots of people who haven't got a clue. They're still stuck in Pisces. And I predict that's going to be the big divide. Everyone's like, oh, we're going to go into two timeline. It's going to be people who stay with the age of Pisces because they don't know what's going on. And that's fine. There'll be like ghosts in the system. And there's people who understand that the age of Aquarius is coming in, this different vibrations coming in, and things are going to change, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. And I'm not just saying go with the flow and do whatever somebody else wants, but I'm saying it's ushering in, and it's about knowledge, not about the internet knowledge, about understanding what's really going on and how they do psyops and how they control us and how religion controls you and how it tells you to worship a god through them. And it doesn't tell you that the spark of life is right inside of you and you have inner power, and you can understand. When you go to astrology, you can understand things about yourself. Do you know that you have a sun sign, a rising sign, and a moon sign? There's 3 different signs that rules your life depending on where you're born, the time, the day, the location. And then you have what's called a Saturn return. Saturn returns every, I don't know, couple times in your year, and it influences major events in your life. You can look up that and see what your Saturn return is. It only happens a few times in your life. And you can say, like, where was I in 1985, on your Saturn returns. There's all this different stuff and natal charts that kind of tell you about yourself. And the elites, they do this all the time. They're right into this. In fact, a lot of them probably have high-end professional astrologers charting things out for them. 100% guaranteed. Yeah, that's... Oh, I haven't even gotten in. Just look at my list here for sacred geometry. That comes into it. Astrology can be as therapy, like understanding a lot of these things. I talked about the demons last time, and energy movement, and things absorbing into you and it moving into you, and you moving the pain out of you. You can check out that episode. But astrology is therapy, sacred geometry. We're gonna do a little. We're gonna do a little test on gematria, Jewish numerology, and it's letters equaling numbers, and then they use the numbers to calculate and do things. We're going to actually look at a site that gets us to test out gematria, because numerology comes into all of this. So like I said, we have this coming in, and I just want to do some more of those internet videos, because they're really, we just got to pull them up. And I've got to find the history on that one because I don't have it saved on a playlist. But let's go back here to...
And then the sun transits out of...
to the playlist, and we'll play...
your physical body.
No, we don't want to listen to that one.
So you can...
There we go. Let's go back to my research list, and we will play the other one.
Claims to be the most advanced.
I hate it when they play commercials and do that to me. But I refuse to pay them. So it's not on that one. So let's go to my history list. We'll find it. It was such a good video on astrology. It said it's your pain has pattern, and astrology reveals it all. And they come to a point where they talk about this, and it's really good. I'm going to pause it and take it back to the point that I want to show you, and then we'll share this separate screen. Because they talk about how religion banned astrology. And everyone will tell you, well, it's because it's from the demons. And religion tells us, do you honestly think the religious people are banning it because it's from the demons? Or do you think they might be banning it because they don't want you to have this knowledge? It's knowledge that only they want to have, because they want to have an advantage. I don't know. I mean... You can make up your mind about that, but we're going to have a little look at this one. She is an astrologist. Her name is Deborah Silverman. She's being interviewed, and she's going to talk about that, and then she gets into the age of Aquarius. So have a listen here.
It's funny that we don't know it. So the church took away the power of the individual having the resource to give their own healing, and they gave them the guilt that everything they were doing was wrong, with all the shoulds and all the commandments. Not to say that that's not useful, but the imposing of your power, your intuition, your knowing is not acceptable, is what put us in the situation we're in.
Yeah, the knowing is the big thing. It's the knowing, like part of your process, the big part that I got is just remembering how amazing things are And then all the other stories we fabricate, let's be honest, I do it. We fabricate these stories.
It's called MSU, making shit up.
We've all attended this university. So then you spoke of the age of Aquarius. Like, what is that for somebody that doesn't know anything about the
So
age
the
of Aquarius?
last 21, it goes in 2100 year cycles. When Christ was here was the age of Pisces. He entered that, and it was follow the leader. So Pisces was the Christian model or the Jewish model or the Muslim model was we're going to give you a book and you'll get these instructions and you follow. And if you don't follow, we'll banish you. You won't be part of our community. You won't have any food. You won't have any family. You can't live in our town. Yeah. So it was a really strong adherence to a set of values and rules and codes that were brought to us by religion. That was the Piscean age. Pisces loves sacred, magic, ceremonies. They love having incense burning. They love doing magical mushrooms, as they're called. But that wasn't in
I would actually say, and I said this on my last show, it's religion, but it's more linked to politics than anything. Politics rules the religion. So people are looking for a spiritual thing that belongs to them and connects their community because they always long for it since the beginning of humankind. And politics takes over religion. They infiltrate these movements, and then you've got this control structure. And I have no doubt that they'll try to do this with any kind of Aquarius energy, 100%.
Introduced by the religious order. And then came the Aquarian age, entering, from my point of view, in the 60s. We don't know when it turns, but suddenly in the last, let's say it's just beginning. We're only at the very entrance. And that was, do not follow, do not go to church, do not listen to what other people tell you. You can be yourself, whatever religion, whatever sexuality, whatever thought process. You don't have to get married. You don't have to have kids. You can have kids through a tube. There's a million Aquarian options now that were not in place during the Piscean age. So now we're in the free fall. The old structures that we counted on to give us right and wrong aren't here. So the Aquarian age is freedom. But when you have too much freedom, it starts to feel disorienting.
Now pause this. They are still here. They're just really going out of control. And I think you can still see them functioning in Islam and certain other religions. And I suspect those will crumble eventually too. To what end? I do not have that predictive model. I can't tell you what that will be. But if it's anything, it's going to be like an you would have to understand that you have to have an individual understanding of yourself and that you're that energy connected to the universe, the creator, as native indigenous cultures would say, but yet you're all connected together. So there's no point in having different gods and killing each other because you're all connected, because you're just all part of this planet. It's like other apples attacking apples, other trees thinking they're, worms or something. I don't know. It's that maybe that's a bad analogy.
What's right and wrong? And how do I feel safe? And where do I get safety and security, as we had in the olden days when you knew what the religious order told you to do and what to wear and how to dress? The whole thing was completely, it was like a follow the leader in a homogenized experience. Now we're in the chunky part where everything goes. We have the weirdest reality we live in. We're inside of a computer right now. People are like, what is happening? Cyberspace is the Aquarian age. AI is the Aquarian age. ET is the Aquarian age. These are the new entrances of us.
Okay. Also, I want to say, when they say ET, AI, I'm not so sure if I agree with her. By the way, her father was a Jewish mafioso from Las Vegas. So she actually talks about that, and it's really interesting. I think AI are tricks. I think they're tricks. I think they're trying to mimic the system and keep us attached to that. So don't go running off and getting a brain implant, trying to be in the age of Aquarius quite yet, people. I don't quite buy her same theory, and she says some woke stuff that I don't entirely agree with, but let's keep going.
Realizing telepathy is real. Like there's an alternate reality that is not stuck by the religious order and the symptoms of our grandparents. So it's kind of exciting.
It's exciting. Jesus was part of the Piscean age.
He was the fish. Remember, there was fish everywhere. Pisces is fish.
Do you feel like Jesus was also had the momentum of astrology behind him?
He was found by a star. Hello. Why do people forget this? Those wise men were astrologers. They predicted his presence. They knew where to find him. Isn't that magic?
You're going to do this method to reduce your brainwave frequency to the...
Now it's magic with an advertisement.
...level. This method...
That's
So,
definitely.
of course, in the Torah, in every religious order, there was astrologers.
I want to say one more thing. Every era has its positive side and then it has its shadow side. So we're seeing a lot of shadow side of Pisces right now. So Aquarius will have its positive side of information in different sources and outside yourself, within yourself, but it will also have a shadow side. It'll also have a negative element. So it's when you hear that song by Fifth Dimension and Peace and Love and Harmony, that's that woo woo new age side. I'm just not that naive that I'm like, oh yes, it'll all be about love and butterflies and puppy kisses. Every aeon has its shadow self. The negative elements that we put into it. I just wanted to add that because I don't think too many people actually add that.
In the back room, but they weren't allowed to come out, and they were never allowed to be women. It was only men that were allowed in the sacred temples of the astrology's mysteries because it was so mathematical. And they determined that women didn't have that capacity. Well, we changed that. I have a school that's all women. I have 8,000 students have come through my school. 98% are women studying astrology.
Wow. Why do you think that is? Is it making up for lost time?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's time's up. Women are incredibly, it's so bizarre. This is the Aquarian age. It's no longer being run by men. So there's this polarity that happens, and then we come back into the middle, and that means everyone's included, and we're
So I don't want this to be like a sexist lecture, like men are bad, blah, 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 blah. It's more like you see the person as they are. Like, okay, when you're with your spouse, do you see your spouse as them as an individual and all their weaknesses, or do you see your spouse as just this man that's supposed to be your husband that you're to use as something and he has to serve you some way? Or do you actually see him beyond that as his individual self, and same vice versa for your wife? I'm not going to get into that. We don't have to be gender stuff because that's not going away. If that goes away, we won't be able to reproduce. Positive, negative balance. No, what it is, your shadow self is all the taboo stuff. It's all the stuff that you hide, that you've been told is wrong. And so you hide it and stuff it down. It's not necessarily wrong, but you stuff it down so it becomes a shadow and it acts out unconsciously. So you end up doing things unconsciously or sneakily, underhandedly, and like wars or drug addiction or sex addiction or backstabbing people. A lot of people develop those things because they present themselves as one way and they have this big shadow underneath. We should all be equal and respect to each other. I mean, women and men have different biological elements. We cannot deny that. But you just see the person. And yes, there's gender things that they have, but you got to stop this men and women arguing like that show. What is it called? The Whatever podcast. It's a ridiculous low hanging fruit that gets women from OnlyFans to trash them and bash them and take clips and make them look like dumb and stupid while these men are supposed to be pious Christian. That is Pisces. That's Pisces shadow. That is not people saying, look, there are these women who are doing OnlyFans and I really think they're destroying their life. I want to have a conversation with them, which is what Charlie Kirk would have done. I want to have a conversation with these women and I want to let them know that they can live a different way, which is what Jesus actually would have done. He would have said, he wouldn't have said you're bad because you're an OnlyFans girl. He would have said, okay, you can come into my ministry but you have to repent and you'll be forgiven if you don't change your ways. Your life's on a bad trajectory, and realize that people do these things because they're hurt. So it's like this understanding and knowing. It's like this understanding and knowing of why people do things that they do. So in shadow, a lot of these people are only fangirls. It's like they're their own shadow that they're dealing with.
past the polarity of genders. And that will be the Aquarian age when we actually just see each other eye to eye and we're done with the construct of polarity. That's going to change.
How do you think it's going to change so that we can love each other more?
Well, we're seeing it right now. This is the whole, there's a polarity so strong in our planet right now between Republicans and Democrats, between those that believe and those that don't, the new age people and the old. There's such a strong, and that is going to create so much tension, civil war. There's so much tension that it's going to finally pop, and we're going to show up with the people who love and are past the duality and just look into each other's eyes and know that if an alien arrived, why would we separate ourselves? We're one species. And there's so many more. And how dare we think we're the only ones? That is the funniest thing I've ever. If we're the only ones, come on. Humans are not the most evolved species. Please tell me that's true.
Well, we're doing our best.
Thank you.
With
so
the level of
Doris.
consciousness.
And sometimes that's all we can do. I don't think an alien's going to show up anytime soon. And I think this idea that the Aquarius stuff is going to be like a spaceman, there's just too much that the government's going to try to psyop with us on that. And I don't know if governments fall, but if you look at all these ages before, like I showed you with these religious stuff, it's not like people knew they were in the mother goddess age. Things just shifted and changed gradually, and they did so because new technology. So new technology drives these shifts, but perhaps guys, perhaps there's this wisdom from the stars to giving people ideas for this new technology. How could I know? Maybe Elon Musk is our little Aquarian water bearer. How do I know? Maybe, I doubt it, but maybe he is. Maybe he knows more than I do. Let's continue on.
You're so sweet. I love that.
I love the way you got into astrology. And even you said, I wrote the book because it had been decades and somebody said, you need to write this book, but you resisted it. Why did you resist it so much?
I think just my ego was like, how much more work do I have to do? And I made a plan, I made an agreement, and I said to myself in my prayer, because I strongly believe in prayer, and I said, if it's fun and it's not heavy lifting, I'll do it. And then somebody showed up in my world who had 4 planets in Aquarius. She was a genius. She took all my classes. She had written
4 planets in Aquarius. My goodness. That's a lot of planets. That's a lot of water bearing.
13 New York Times bestsellers as a ghostwriter. So she and I started dancing together, and she was fun and she was funny and she did all the heavy lifting, and it became a party. But in the entrance, when the mind first gets a new idea and it looks like a big mountain and you're 70,000 years old, you're like, we're going to walk up that mountain. And then I realized, well, I could ask for help. And then I got help.
Wow. Okay. So the momentum started really young. Your dad was in the Jewish mafia, which I think is fascinating.
Are you allowed to tell everybody that?
We can
look
say
who's
it.
on the walls.
That's okay. I think he was connected to the mafia.
Let's
Of
see
course
here.
it was in Las Vegas.
How did that understanding or lesson or
Let's tap up to the golden age,
If
because
you
you
don't
often
understand
hear,
the rules of power, you will certainly lose.
see that's Pisces. If you don't understand the rules of power, you're going to lose. Dork, you don't know Aquarius.
Right now. And it's called the age of forgetting. And we're just entering the golden age, but we're in this threshold. We're in this very thin threshold.
Did you guys notice that Trump used the golden age term? And we're definitely not in a golden age. He uses that. And that's this kind of idea that there's going to be a golden age. And we can't have a golden age until this Pisces shit transitions. And it may not be in our lifetime. Like I said, it could be another 50 to 100 years before we're heavy set right into the influence of Aquarius. And remember, all the signs aren't the same size. So I think that idea of 2160 years, you could give or take some time, because Pisces could be smaller than other astrological signs. So who's to say? I don't think it's quite so evenly chopped up like that.
Between worlds, where we're going to be done with this old system that is so painful that our parents, you are heralding in and your children an entirely new way of being. In the meantime, it's painful, the transition, because we're so confused. Unfortunately, they never send us the memo. This is the end of an era. Don't worry. Everything's okay.
No one got the memo. The people in the goddess era didn't get the memo. Polytheism didn't get the memo. No, nobody got the memo. But I guarantee you there are power structures that are definitely trying to hang on to this power structure and what they know and how they know how to do it. And if I stand correct, and what I think is true, they would be aware that Aquarius is coming in, and they're trying to hijack it the way they hijacked Jesus and Christianity and all that other stuff. So that's the thing. That's the parting is, do you recognize these people and realize they're hijacking it? Like, what happens in this new system? Are they trying to get rid of a lot of us so it's easier for them to hijack it? I don't know what's going on, but it's clear to me that they're going to hijack it and keep up with the propaganda so that people don't actually realize the true element of themselves and really get to explore the age of Aquarius. That's what I think is going to happen.
Wow. Okay. So can you provide clarity on the lens of the sun, the moon, and the rising? Because I hear about these from Carrie Michelle. I've been fully confused the whole time.
Did we just leave behind the biggest transition on the planet? We're going to the sun, moon, and rising?
We are, because I don't know if that really landed for people. Like, it's literally like taking a book and closing it. But then the clarity comes from the way that you see it.
I love that.
The lens that you see it.
And
If you want to go deeper into
all
that
I'm going to say is the simple version of that particular comment
Yes.
is we are in a birthing canal as a human race, and we're not prepared with enough midwives in the room to say, don't worry. So I want to say to everyone, we're in a transition. We're at the end of an era. Every single system, from the Mayans to the Kali Yuga to the astrology system, everyone's screaming the same thing. We're at the end of an era, and it's worthy of us to stop and realize, oh, it's okay. And from that, it's all I want to do is give the gift of the balm of the elders saying to you, we've seen this all before, and it will pass. And it is a very happy ending.
What's the ending?
It's a transition to a whole new species. And I can't put it into words. I can't really tell you, except that I know there'll come a time when all the things you love the most, deep conversations, healthy food, being fair, sharing our money, living in harmony, understanding what it is to be respectful and have justice, that will be coming.
It sounds like a world I'd love to play in.
I love that. You're making it. You're setting the stage. That's why we're on the podcast.
Can we go to my question about
Yes,
the lens?
please.
Okay. The reason I'm asking that is because
Okay, we'll stop there because we don't want to make this whole show their podcast. But I thought that was a good reminder because my husband will remind me of that sometimes because I look at everything and go, oh my God, what's going on with everything I knew? It's going crazy. And it is a reminder that it's birthing something new. You just got to be aware of the control structures and see their games and laugh at it. I don't know what else to tell you because we ain't voting our way out of this. That's for sure. We are not voting our way out of this. They're just too tricky. And a lot of these people, you got to let them do the thing. I know it's hard because the economy and money, but you got to let Donald Trump be a psycho. You got to let Kamala Harris be an idiot and Joe Biden. They're going to do that anyways. They're vibrating somewhere totally different, and they may have lots of money and lots of power. And it may look like they have all the cards, but when energy transitions, and we've seen this before where many empires, many houses, many things have collapsed and had to transform. So it has happened before. Will we see it? I don't know, but hopefully we will. So Pyramid 7 says, I just think that the corruption is so embedded. It's just how it is now. Yeah, it is. So, but that can only go on for so long. Corruption in itself eventually collapses itself. And the reason it does is because it doesn't realize we're all connected and it thinks it's above us and separate from us. And it doesn't, because they're psychopaths, they don't realize they're connected. So once the bottom of the pyramid starts collapsing, what happens? Exactly. They've put it like that structure. That's how they've set everything up. So once everything starts eroding on the bottom, it just takes time, and our lifespans are so short. It's hard to see it all. And that's why I present it in these eras or these aeons, is because it takes like 2100 years for this stuff to play out. And then to go through the whole cycle, I think, what did they say it was? Like 260,000 years. Like, it's massive. It's huge. It's universal, right? If each constellation is 2100 years, then the whole cycle is 26,000 or something like that. That's what it is. So it is But this is the Pisces system. And you can't keep eroding the base forever and then expect to have a pyramid left. I hope that's a good analogy for you. But I wanted to play her message of, hey, it's birthing pains and it's going to suck, but then there'll be a release. I don't know if I'm just here to see the end of it all and I won't see the beginning. That's c'est la vie. That's how it is. I can't control anything else at all. It's an interesting play. We'll just say that. Let's go back to our internet sharing screen. We're going to talk about gematria and numerology and get into vibration and sacred geometry, because all those things play into all this astrology stuff. And I'm no astrologer. I'm no professional. I'm really giving you the ABCs here, but I wanted to give everybody this kind of encouraging message that maybe I need to be reminded about it sometimes too. This is the gematria calculator. You can write your word in there. And I will tell you right now, Jewish numerology, known as gematria, is a mystical system of assigning numerical values to the Hebrew letters to find hidden meanings in sacred texts. Each Hebrew letter corresponds to a number, and the numerical value of a word is found by adding the values of its letters. This can be used to reveal connections between different words or concepts to share the same numerical value. I was going to play a video about it, but you can go on YouTube and write gematria. Let's look at a little chart. You see right here, that's not quite big enough. Darn it. Anyways, it goes from 1 to 9. And they'll have each alphabet, like 1 will be Aleph, and then 2 will be Bet. It goes from 1 to 9. And then the next level goes by tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 60, 70. And then the next level goes by hundreds. So if you had 122, it would be Kaf, Kaf, Bet. And you would have this numerological kind of concoction. But we're going to go into this calculator here. It's at gematrix.org, and it will give you the gematria in Hebrew, English, and simple gematria. And you just type in a word, whatever word you want. And this is like ancient Jewish text stuff. I know a lot of people are not happy at Israel, but I think this came much before the idea of Zionism, so we won't worry. So let's take Velvet Bite and we'll calculate it. We can view the root words. So the Velvet Bite equals 1646 in the Hebrew gematria, and you can go down and look at everything that had that same numerical. Love Bond, my husband. Barack Obama is gifting him Mark King wine. Like really weird things believe the same thing. Who is Donald Trump is 1646. God's love story. Mark of the Beast, draw men to God. Like there's all different things. We can type in, let's type in England and see what it says. Like you can just type in any word. And it's 117 by the Jewish gematria. The English, it's 282. Words like Rachel, Ohio, Pamela. There's a lot of names that go with England. Black gold, that's interesting. So you can just test this out. Let's type in United States. Okay. It's 744, but so is Benito Mussolini. Kansas City, Camelot, King Arthur is 744. Blue cancel, blue confirm. Master Illuminati is 744, and so is the United States. That's interesting. And so is Benito Mussolini. So I don't know. And it's bizarre. But you can get all these same things that have a similar gematria. And are they connected? How do they connect them? That's a really good question. Let's type in the country I was born in, Canada, and see what they say, because this stuff could be in vibration. You could choose these names and unknowingly tap into other things. Let's cancel out this. Let's type in Canada. Canada is 50 in Hebrew gematria, and it means Allah, magic, Cecilia. Yeah, Allah and magic. That's interesting. That Allah would go with Canada. You can type in your name. I will type in Melissa. And I'm 245. Oh, billionaire is also 245. Where's well? Penelope, praise, tent, Persia, Antoine, cannibalism. No, thank you. I'll pass. Lightning. So it's an interesting site. I will pass that on to you guys. And you can, I think there's more to gematria than that. You can kind of research that out and play with that and play with numericals. But I don't doubt that when they're naming companies and when they're doing things, they do these kind of gematria values. And that kind of brings us into the idea of, yeah, MLE author says there's a crossover with the Kabbalah as well. It's Jewish mysticism. Yeah, it's Jewish mysticism. So that's gematria and that's numerology. There's different forms. The Greeks had forms of numerology. We're not going to get into that. But I think a lot of the elites use gematria. 100%. They use this totally like to make their decisions, as well as where the planets are. I think it's a very involved science for them. And that kind of brings us into our next video. We're going to look at sound and sound vibrations. I found this really interesting because actually, let's go back to here and look at what sound vibrations does. We're going to, actually, I'll pull it up on my screen better. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go. Boom. We want to go here. This is a resonance experiment. I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit on this. I don't know if I'll get copyright. I don't know where the music comes from, but let's check it out here. It's going to show you some.
My energy bill dropped from
with sound. And how sound forms shapes. And this is going to come into logos and building shapes and how things are done and what they mean. Eric says, I believe there was sacred geometry and even UFO and Jewish mysticism, but this kind of gets into sacred geometry because it shows you how frequency forms shapes and how these shapes can be used according to frequency to influence logos and designs. What power does the cross have? I know Islam doesn't like, Christian, we're all supposed to not worship icons, but we do. Come on. Even Islam, they walk around Mecca. They don't think it's an icon, but still you could have a black cube I find that the black cube an interesting choice because I find it very dense and dark, to be quite honest. Let's check this out. This is the quote from Nikola Tesla. It says, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Semantics. So we are about to be introduced to an experiment they're doing. What they're going to do is they're going to place sand here and they're going to do certain frequencies and hertz, and they're going to show you what it does to the sand and how it forms shapes. And sound 100% influences us. They know this. So it says here, let's go back there. I want to read the for the people who aren't watching. It says, as the pitch of the tone increases, geometric patterns will form and become more complex. Sacred geometry. He turns it up to 345 hertz. And look at that. Add some more. 1033 hertz. This is sacred geometry right here at its base, at its core. 1820, sound vibration forming things into shape. 2041 hertz. 3240. I think they're using salt. Is that sand or salt? There's 380, 3835 hertz. You can see the shapes. Things form to sound. So think of what they can do to sound. And I know this is sand and we are not sand, but think how they can use sound to actually manipulate behavior. And it does. There was this woman who, there's very few of them. They can actually see sound visually. And so when she would go, if she was in a club, like there's very few people who can do this. It's something with the brain. And she would be at the club, and if it was like boom, boom, dark bass music, she would just see these giant black squares coming at her, and it made her feel really gross. So she was really highly aware of what sound did to you. And certain classical music's probably better than others. Anything made with a more organic wood is probably better sound. But high bass and these depressing music, they're going to be putting different patterns at you. And the way we do this, it affects how we design things in the buildings. Look at some of the buildings they design now, the crap out there. It's all relative to when you do that big block, it literally has a frequency that it sends out to you. $40.49. That's an interesting one. $42.21. You just get all these amazing patterns and designs that is literally, it's like pretty symmetrical. It's not like these shapes go in these really random, and it's like all symmetrically done, and it forms symmetrically throughout this black platform surface. So it's like literally, yeah, it's symmetrical. It's almost like someone measured it out, but it's frequency. Matthew says, Synthesia, seeing sound visually. That's it, Synthesia. Thank you, Matthew. 4444. There it is. You can watch what sound frequency does to us. So I believe all music is recorded at a certain frequency, a hertz, and they changed it. It used to be lower, and they've pushed it up to a different standard. And I forgot what that number was, but they've standardized it differently than it used to be. And that's going to have an effect on people. And I don't think that was by mistake. I think that was an MK Ultra thing. And you can guarantee that they did, even Gansfeld experiment. They play with pink noise and white noise, and they put goggles on your eyes in a red room because they know that they can mess up your mind, and your mind will start filling in the gaps and start hallucinating stuff when you have all these sounds. But they changed the frequency in how they record music. And they do it at a different hertz now. And I can't imagine that they would just randomly do that. I think there's a purpose to that they're not being honest about. But if anyone in the chat wants to comment on that, go ahead. I don't know enough about that. There you go. Perfectly aligned. 4671 hertz. 4840. Look at these patterns. They're just perfectly aligned. $59.07. So you can see how they keep changing. Now, so my question I ask you is, we're going to go back up here. MLE author, who is a musician, by the way, he says, as well as musical tones and pitches, rhythms and tempos also contain cycles and vibrations over a longer period of time. And he also says, yes, in the Baroque age, it was 415 hertz. It is now 440 hertz or higher. So they've changed it. Just saying. I think that might have an effect. So you can see that doing patterns. And I don't doubt that they already know that there's certain frequencies that younger people hear that we don't. They can use it torturously. Go look at Clockwork Orange. They literally use visual and sound to torture people. So they can use it for good or they can use it for bad. My guess is the government's going to use it for bad. And crazy stuff. It's like they make sound, frequency, vibration, form patterns. A lot of this stuff is, you would rather it be organic rather than forced, but they could really rev it up and damage and hurt people and harm people. They could probably make people depressed, hallucinate, hear the voice of God, think they're schizophrenic. That's why I'm saying a lot of these technologies and these waves and these frequencies out there might even drive people to schizophrenia or some kind of mental health issue where they think they're seeing something or being told to do something. They could target someone with this kind of stuff if they wanted to. I'm sure they could. And that's why we all want to put a tinfoil hat on, right? So now I present to you a little bit more, because not only do we have frequencies and sounds affecting us on this planet, but our entire planets make sounds. So we're going to start off showing you the sound of Earth and what Earth makes. Let's check it out. End that one shortly because it's loud. So that was Earth. And now I'm going to play Venus. I just have a couple of samples. You can go look this stuff up on YouTube. It will show you stuff, but each planet has different sound waves and frequencies. So, and then if you think bigger and bigger, and there's other frequencies possibly in the universe, is that what holds the universe together? Does that help the planets go and gravity mixed with other stuff and then they make sounds? I don't know. There might be a scientist out there that could fill that in for me. But if you see sound hertz affecting sand, is there a bigger scope to that? Are the planets like giant speck of dusts or something? I don't know. Anyways, let's listen to Venus and what's. That was Venus. And now many of you who might be into conspiracy theories, you might have focused a lot on Saturn. That's one of these planets that tend to be the focus of a lot of conspiracy theories, because Saturn has a little, what is it? Is it a hexagon or an octagon shape on top of it? I think it's a hexagon, but it looks like a black cube when you draw it up. And that's black cube and Saturn worship kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of these sort of elite worshiping things. Also, Mecca is a black cube that they walk around. Our cell phones could be perceived as a black cube. There's a lot of black cube worshiping happen in elite occult societies. And so I couldn't pass this one up without showing you the sound of Saturn. Let's just show you Saturn. It's a little spooky. Now that was Saturn. Yeah, that was Saturn. It's a little spooky, and there's a lot of conspiracy about Saturn. You can watch David Icke. I got a David Icke video for you guys who like the Iker, because he talks about. Emily author says, hallucinating in response to noise is sometimes called matrixing. Are we locked in the matrix? Dorothy says, our planet is one huge magnetic field from north to south, and the line of the field densities are amazing. Yeah. So planets make different sounds, and I'm sure different weather patterns will affect that. So those sounds, you're like, well, how do they know? There's a way that NASA has that they're able to get that. They have a technique that they do. You have to look into it. Now, I know people are suspicious of NASA because it came from Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley, Thelema, but you got to get over that stuff because you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm sure they're doing some research. They got some content there. And a lot of people don't trust what they say space is. I think space is probably a lot more organic. It's like we're inside of an organic body. We don't know it. It's probably a lot more. Mars. Yeah, I was going to do Mars, but I didn't get it. But check it out. You can go on YouTube and listen to they have clips of all the planets' different sounds. Incognito, I was thinking the same thing. He says, it sounds almost exactly like the music on Forbidden Planet. Yeah, there was that Forbidden Planet, and there was Planet of the Vampires. The music on there, we watched it. It's a Gallo. No, it's not. Is it a Gallo movie? Anyways, it literally gives you that sound. Before they knew what Saturn sounded like, they would produce those sounds in movies to be like outer space. So Saturn has that spooky ass sound. Yeah. So you can check that out, but let's go here because David Icke's going to tell us how, again, we're going to get back to astrology, age of Aquarius. I just feel like sound is so important and we all just take it for granted and we don't actually realize how they use sound to manipulate us. And apparently Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in C minor can get rid of like 20% of cancer cells. That's what they're saying. So you got to look at music probably in that range. It is the Baroque age, 415 hertz. It's probably more therapeutic than 440 hertz. That's my guess. You wouldn't want to sit there and listen to something at thousands of hertz all the time. You wouldn't want that. That could drive you crazy. You wouldn't want to listen to the sounds of Saturn all the time. That would, you probably get spooked out and start thinking things are coming. Like even organ music, the vibrations can make you hallucinate. So it has an effect. And so you want to kind of look at hertz and sounds that, and I was going to bring my husband's gong bowl, boom, boom, and bang it on the show, and I forgot it. So we won't do that today. Maybe we'll do that on Sunday. But I said this in my paid one for the subscribers. But one thing that we always had in all the Christian villages that I think they still have it some places, but we don't have it in all small cities and neighborhoods anymore. You never hear it, is church bells. And I think church bells were like a clearing sound. I think it cleared out negative vibrations and maybe even demons. I think it was obviously meant to say, hey, it's church time, or it's 1 o'clock, or it's 2 o'clock, or we're meeting at the town hall. I don't know. But I think it also had a therapeutic thing. And we don't do that anymore. So let's go into David Icke. He's gonna tell us about elites and astrology.
As you go through the cycles of the
Let's start that again.
and so as you go through the cycles of the planets, there are particular times when the energy is especially powerful, and that impacts upon the unified field, if you like, that we're living in and interacting with. And it, through that, impacts upon us. And it's like, you know, if you want to row out to sea from the seashore, then it's not a good idea to row out to sea when the tide's coming in, because you're fighting the tide. But when the tide's flowing out, it's flowing in your direction, it's much easier. And exactly the same applies to the flow of energy impacted by the movement of the planets. This is why, although, you know, your CEOs of major global corporations will probably poo-poo the idea publicly. Oh, no, astrology, load of rubbish. Well, why do they have astrologers on retainers to advise them on the best time to launch a product or to take an action? It's because they know about these flows of energy. It's what's passed on through the initiations, etc.
There you go. So it's kind of like he describes it as going in and out with the tide. Like going, you call it going with the flow. I'm not getting QAnon on here. You don't just listen to QAnon. you don't, it's not about listening to political leaders and just going with the flow in that way and just trusting every, jerk that hands you a conspiracy theory. We're talking about astrology and looking at the astrology and saying, okay, wow, I'm reading this and this might be the best time for me to make certain changes. This might be the best time for me to move. Oh, maybe, you can look at it and look at different products being released or political campaigns or even political slogans and be like, why did they choose that? What's going on? I don't know, maybe we should be out there learning all the birth dates and times of all these politicians and mapping them out astrological wise and looking for their weaknesses. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that kind of scouting when they look at certain people as well. They kind of map out their charts. That would not shock me one bit. That would not shock me. Emily says, yes, church bells are very rich in harmonics and resonance. And then he says, yeah, he's agreeing with my husband, Incognito. It also reminds me of the music from TV series The Martian Chronicles in the 1980s. It's just crazy stuff. Go check out that full video on David Icke. It's a really good one. Boom. Here we are. Back to the solo. Now, back to the age of Aquarius and the transition and what's going on and the chaos, because we looked at sounds and frequencies and you're like, well, what does this all have to do with that? I just think you have to be aware that all these things are at play and how they affect you, not just in the small level, but in this massive, huge scale. And I often get stuck. If I get too stuck in the details, I know the devil is in the details for certain things. I understand that. It's not my strong point. There are people out there that are really strong with the detail, like things are smaller. I'm like, I've got like Aries sun, Aries ascendant, then an Aquarius. I there's no way I can do small details. I like to. The thing is you can get stuck in the small details in the trenches and not see the big picture of what's happening with all the other moving pieces. That's why I like to do shows like this where we move out and we see this sort of age that's transitioning. It's what I did when we looked at the different stages of religious development in that one show. We kind of looked out, but this is looking out even more. This is looking out into the space. I'm fortunate I can only look out so far because there's no way we can all know what's all infinite. I mean, for all we know, this galaxy could be a little cell or something inside a massive body of something that we don't particularly understand. That could be a micro, macro, what what they say, as above, so below kind of thing. And I like to go in this big scale where I'm like, things are changing and frequencies are going to change. And there's different things that they understand. And we could be afraid of this information and go, it's the devil. And you see that happening with TPUSA and a lot of these churches. Things are getting crazy and scary, and they're going back to what they know, like Christianity. And you see it's good to push those good values, like don't harm children, don't be lying, but most of them are going to churches that are really corrupt because the whole system is corrupt. They just don't want to let go of that system because they can feel the change. They can feel it, but they want that system to protect them. And hey, fair enough. There are benefits to being in this system. But if you got bad people and it's getting too corrupt, it can also be very destructive. And just hopefully you don't fall in the way. Eric Joseph Merrick says, Melissa, I like how you talked about the transition in government structure related to the religious transition. That was a great presentation. Yeah. Religion is just politics. It's politics wrapped up in a religious robe. It's not spiritual. If you look at indigenous cultures, I'm sure they had their politics and their wars, but they had orality. They didn't have everything written down. And everyone says, well, you can't remember things. How can you remember things? We are more superior. We are more, because we write everything down and we have it to a science. And I think one of the skills you lose when you write everything down and you have databases is you actually lose your memory, and you lose a skill in your mind that you develop with orality, and you lose connection with the community. It actually, yes, you can read on your own and do all this research. It makes us more independent, but it also makes you less connected with your community. No one gathers for stories and trading of information orally anymore. And I think your memory, it actually gets worse when you don't have an oral culture. I'm not recommending anyone not to learn how to read by any chance. I'm just saying you give up something for something else. Your brain, it's like we learned how to handwrite, and the kids just learn to tap buttons now. They're going to give up something in their brain development so they can get with technology in the future and just tap things. They're going to give us something, some form of intelligence up, some form of communication that's not as in your face or as apparent. It's more of a subtle form of intelligence. And nobody wants to believe that dream. Everyone's making fun of Candace Owens because she talked about having a dream where Charlie said he was betrayed. And this used to be commonplace where people would have dreams that would influence them. They knew the difference between a random dream and a prophetic dream. And they wouldn't just act on the dream, but they would heed the dream. And then they would find, if information pointed that was correct, they would heed the dream. We're just like, you're so stupid. What a retard. You had a dream. We are so critical of that, and we're so into this form of we're into this form of solid databases that we don't consider the dream a form of information anymore. And so people probably lost the skill, probably lost the ability. They're not as good. They don't listen to it. They shove it off to the side. They don't consider it a form of information to apply with logic, to apply with database. They are just like, that's stupid. Where's the evidence? Well, sometimes you're not going to find the evidence. People burn evidence. People lie. People put out false narratives, whether it's World War II. Like, everything is a false narrative. So do you think the government's going to say, yeah, oh, yeah, that's a good dream, Candace. You got us. Here's all the information. That's not going to happen. So there's something to hold on to, all these different types of information. And I think we'll see that in Aquarius, where people are like, nah, bro, I think I'm going to rely on my own instincts as the baseline, and I'll use your stuff as secondary. And I think that's where we have to go. Don't put like, okay, I'm glad you have your brain implant. I'm glad you have all your phones and stuff, but I'm going to rely on my stuff first. And if your stuff might help me a little bit, maybe I will use that. You know, because I'm connected to everything. I'm connected to God or creator, whatever the source of the universe is. So I can just go and take my time and go there. And if your little doodad outside of my body, not implanted, can help me, okay, well, maybe. But we've gone to the reverse, where this stuff is king, like this stuff rules our life. And maybe there'll be a transition from that. But I don't doubt the Elon Musks and the, Palantir. They're you know, with his, what's his name? Peter Thiel with Palantir. Everyone's trying to say, oh, that's the future. It's the technology. It's the age of Aquarius. That is not. Palantir is not the age of Aquarius. Palantir is like the all-seeing eye. It's monotheistic. It's like evil. It's like twisted. It's like Sauron. That's where he got it from. He got it from Lord of the Rings. That is not the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius is knowledge just being brought to you from a natural source. And the internet is just so crazy if we can't use it as a tool. We have Matthew saying the ancient Greeks saw dreams as revealed to them by the god Morpheus, the shaper of dreams. Oh, that's interesting. Morpheus from the Matrix. Interesting. They said, I saw a dream rather than I had a dream. So maybe Martin Luther King should have said, I saw a dream. That's interesting. Yeah. So that is really fascinating stuff. I would really love to play that song from Fifth Dimension, Age of Aquarius, but really honestly, it's kind of woo-woo new age. I don't think it really describes what we're going to go through, what's going to happen. I'm trying to see if I have any other videos to present to you, and I'm not sure. I'll go back and listen to a little bit more. Your pain has a pattern, a little bit more astrology. I'm going to see if we can go to a different chapter. There. This is a good one because it tells you how the planets influence who we are. And I just played the vibration and the sound. And you know there are classical music. What is that called? Sorry, there's a plane flying overhead. I think they know what I'm talking about. They're trying to vibrate their negativity in here. Shush, plane, shush. An air base around here. The military does not give a good vibration, by the way. Sorry. I know some of you may be veterans, but that's a bad sound to have to hear it go over your house every once in a while. What was that called? Planets. Mike knows what it's called. I know he does. I used to have it on a playlist, but I don't know anymore. Anyway, there's lots of classical music about the planets is what I'm saying. So let's check this one out. If she'll play.
Thing is based on that sun. It gives us our life force. Where it was when you were born as a Taurus describes your life force, the primary ego structure of your personality type. When you dive into the book and you read Taurus, you're going to laugh because you're so Taurus.
Oh,
no. Did you? Of course he did.
It's right here. Taurus, stop and smell the flowers. That's what I do with Nova.
I love that you just did that.
I bookmarked it. Yeah.
And everyone's going to do that. They're going to read the book and they're going to look for their sun sign. Good job. So Taurus is stop and smell the flowers. You learn about your ego structure. Go slow, be calm, be focused. The moon describes the inner world at night. What's going on in the unconscious, the part of us that lives in the depths. You were born under a full moon. So that's auspicious. It only happens once a month. It's a sign of a really big energetic. The whole world wakes up in a full moon, harder to sleep. The waters rise, crime raises. It's a real thing. You were born under a very strong, emotional, intuitive moon where you're so, I just want to swear, you're so fucking Scorpio. You pierce people. Why is this interview so good? Why are you so good at this? You take your focus and you stay. That's very Scorpio.
Yeah.
That's the moon in Scorpio. Your emotional temperament. The inner world, the dark world, has a depth to it that can't tolerate mediocrity and will stay the course no matter what. And then the third is the rising sign. This is in the book, is your soul. It's called the ascendant. It's the higher self. It's what you're aiming for. And yours is Virgo, which is the selfless server who loves to help people more than anything else. At the worst, they criticize themselves and feel like they're never getting it right. And they worry. They get nervous. At their best, they remember, oh, wait a minute. I'm nervous because I really want to do a good job. I can relax. I always do a good job.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it.
So that's the rising sign, is your soul, your rising. The moon is your inner world at night, your emotional temperament. And the sun is your life-giving force. It's the part that you will never, ever get rid of. Ha. You're a Taurus and I'm a Gemini, in case you were wondering.
So we all have these proclivities based on our sun, our moon, and our rising that are really impossible to overcome. And you even said that my fear is a gift, which was so counterintuitive. I'm like, what is she talking about?
Yeah, it's interesting that your fear could be a gift. So I don't know. I would love to get a full, well-rounded reading like that where it can kind of tell you stuff about yourself. It would be fascinating because there's so many different elements to it. And when I see their chart readings, I'm like, what? What's going on here? What's happening? I don't even know what's happening. I think it's a big skill set. And if you add that with things like that, that mace energy work or some kind of shaman stuff pulling pain from you, and then you know your stuff, I think you've got some really good tools that no conventional doctor or psychiatrist will help you. Looking that when she's talking about those different things about the planet, she is talking about astrology as therapy. Am I telling you never go to the doctor or not seek medical attention for things? Absolutely not. I'm saying these are good things to look into. Astrology as therapy, knowing yourself, your charts, the mace energy thing that I mentioned from the last show that helps release trauma. And we were literally doing that in reference to demon possession. The mace, or that's the MAC. It's called Mace Energy Systems. Or Mace Energy something, MEM. Just really, there's these interesting tools out there that are rejected by the mainstream, and that's your kind of flag that maybe should look into certain things like this. Astrology as therapy, sacred geometry, vibrations. How are all these things going to affect you, and how are all these things happening around your life as things transition? Because it is going to get more chaotic and strange. I can almost guarantee you that we're living in a world right now where they are trying to convince all the humans with all of their tricks to do a massive war where massive amounts of people are going to die. And I don't think we should let them trick us. They've tricked us for many wars. And it's a massive sacrifice to keep an age alive that, by rule of the universe, has to end. It has to transition, whether we like it or not, into what we call the age of Aquarius. So that is my show tonight, guys. If you have any questions or comments or any other elements of the age of Aquarius that I missed and you want to pop it into the comments now while we're live, or pop it into the comments, of course, after, if you watch the show post live on replay, you can go ahead and do that. I'm just going to pop up some reminders that we are on Substack. orderofvelvetbite.substack.com. You can subscribe for free or support me. We're pretty close to be able to do paid where you can do super chats and stuff on YouTube. So only a few more 100-hour watch. That'll happen quickly. Also, we're on Patreon. You can support the show for as little as $2 a month. That's www.patreon.com/cw/Order of Velvet Bite, or just go to Patreon and type in Order of Velvet Bite. And of course, there's the website, melissadonharris.com. You can go there and all the links are there. And I usually update it all the time and do the episodes that are there and blog posts. I haven't done that for a bit, so I better get on it. Let's see what we got in the chat. Here we go. Speaking of vibrations and sounds, do I play any instrument? I used to play piano when I was younger, but I kind of gave that up. I'm not really into it anymore. Just decided not to invest the time. But I have played piano. I had a friend who played cello. He was really good at it when he was young, and he hadn't done it for a while. And then he picked it back up again. It was a little rusty. So if you don't use it, you don't lose it. And Eric Joseph Merrick says, thanks for sharing. Very, very cool. Thank you for joining. Dorothy Martel says, nice points and views. Thank you everyone for coming. Now remember, tomorrow is a super cool show. It's about Dracula. So you better not want to miss it. Same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. Patrick Chenard, he's an author, and he's coming here to talk about his book on Vlad the Impaler and the Aryan myth. It's very historical. He traveled all throughout that area in Romania and did some intense historical research for decades. And he's got a lot to say about the folklore and the myths and the Romanian culture. And I'm finishing off, I'm listening to his book tonight. You can check it out. Here, I'll tell you what it is. It's right on my phone. Just have to find it. I'll tell you the title. You can find it on Apple. I will put the links up tomorrow. But it is called Blood Sovereign, The True Story of Vlad Dracula and the Aryan Vampire Myth by Patrick Chenard. It is on Apple Books. You can check it out there. I'm going to be listening to it for the rest of tonight. And tomorrow we will have Patrick on at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we are going to talk everything about Vlad the Impaler, otherwise known as Dracula, the historical man. The vampire too, because you got to talk about this myth. And that will be tomorrow's show. And I thank you guys for showing up. I'm going to go on out. My dogs are digging. They want to go to the bathroom. And I hope you got a lot of that show. And remember, stay calm and chill. Observe, don't absorb during this amazing end of Pisces and into Aquarius. Thank you very much.